Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to come on and discuss this case. It's a case about a little boy that was actually tortured and unalived, um, by his father. It happened back in 2019, um, so we'll jump right into it. And if you guys, please check out this case. It really makes us kind of aware of what children might be going through when they are abused or essayed um, by either a foster parent, a parent, or anybody for that matter that might be involved. So, this is a precious child, Dakota Collins, who was 10 years old when he passed. And in 2000, I believe, 2013, his father, whom had never been in his life before, um, went to Wisconsin to take a DNA test to see if Dakota was his child. And so it came back that indeed Dakota was his child. Um, and so he was able to then start visitation and all of that. Mind you, that the father, Al McLean is his name, had been in a lot of trouble. He had a record of violence, where he assaulted um, many different people. His record was just so long. And in 2013, also November 18th, the mother, I guess someone reported her for slapping Dakota, and she was she admitted that she had slapped him. So then she lost custody, and they ended up giving custody to Al. So, mind you, he lived in Wisconsin, and he had reports of um, CPS was called out to his home several different times while Dakota was in his custody. And they allowed Dakota to stay there. Um, I think, and I want to stop right there and pause. I think that when, CPS comes out, or there's a counselor that's pulling a child in, why do you confront or ask that child or question that child in front of the perpetrator? Um, if I'm telling you my dad or my mom or my aunt abused me, and then you question me in front of that person that I'm telling you had abused me, of course I'm not going to say nothing because you're too afraid. So they left this little boy in the custody still of his dad. And I believe on May 13th, 2013, or I'm sorry, 2017, the mother petitioned the court and said, please do not allow Al to take Dakota out of the state. They granted him. And so he ended up moving to Pennsylvania with Dakota, where the torture starts severely. This little boy was a happy go lucky little boy, I'm sure, as all children are when they are properly being taken care of. Um, he was kept in an attic once they moved. I believe that there were two women, Amanda and her sister Jennifer, that lived in the home as well. And Amanda and Al, Dakota's father, had a baby together. Um, so they had this baby together, and then they had Takoda, who was from Robin Collins. And this guy was violent. He had a record, and my question to the court is, why would you give a child to someone that's violent, that has a long, lengthy record? And I mean, what would make you do that? This little boy had been in 3 different foster homes, um, and then sent to live with this person. I won't even call him a father. It's just sad that this little boy had, his life was just very unpleasant once he met this guy. So he was made to stay in the attic. Um, the Al, when he was questioned by police, in his statements, he said that he was unruly. He was unruly. The little boy had also, before, prior to all of this, I mean, I'm sure it was taking place, but before, he had went to the counselor and told the counselor, this is what's going on. I'm being tortured. His 9-year-old brother had ran away and told the police that, what was going on in the home. And he was sent to live with his mom. So he moved with his mom. He was saved. The CPS workers went out to the home, and because nobody was home, they never followed back up. They never went back out because nobody answered the door. They just said, nobody answered the door, and that was that. They then said that they tried to go back out, and they could not gain access because of pit bulls. You cannot tell them to remove the dogs or put the dogs up so that you can come in and look around and see and put eyes on this child. There's something wrong. It's something wrong with our system when they don't check on the children that they're supposed to protect. And so they left again, only to leave this little boy in harm's way. They would go on to say that Dakota would sleep in the cold attic. They would have TV monitors upstairs where they monitored him constantly, all the time. So they had cameras in this room. He slept on, I believe, just um, a little cot, not even a cot. I think it was a blanket, because he was said that he pees on the mattress. His father would R him and do disgusting things to this little boy. He would torture him. And Amanda, whom he had this baby by, said that she never seen Takoda. So that's the reason, she worked 6 days a week, and when she got off, she was always tired and never saw Takoda. She was asked, why didn't you report it? And that's the reason she gave, is because she didn't see him. But they pulled him out of homeschool. And I agree with another YouTuber that I watched her channel, that I don't think that when a child has a case that's pending through CPS or they've been reported, that they should not be allowed to remove a child out of school. Because once you do that, it's non and void. They're going to be tortured, and there's no getting them help because, now they're removed from everyone. So I don't think that should be allowed. And I think that should be something that we should, that should be made a law, so that our children aren't unalived and raped and R'd and essayed. I just think that there should be some type of law. So this little boy would go on to be tortured by his father. Sometimes he was, able to go downstairs and sit with his father. But most of the time, he spent his days lonely and in an attic by himself, where he just had a bucket to urinate in. He did not eat. His father said that, excuse me, this guy, this man said that he would eat his own feces. But Amanda would later say that his father would shove his feces down his throat and make him eat his own feces. He would then give him water and water. Well, on the last night, after this had gone on for years, this little boy was out of school for 2 years. And so he was home enduring this torture. They He was made to sleep without any clothes on. So constantly, very malnourished. Um, so on the night that his last seconds on earth, but before I get to that, the little boy did try to jump out the window. And so he was taken to the hospital because he ended up severing a tendon in his foot. So he did try to escape. But then when he went to the hospital, the father said, "Oh, he's just being unruly. He's trying to run away." And, he just gave him this whole song and dance. And I wish that at that time, when he went to the hospital, because he stayed overnight, that the medical staff, knowing what type of condition that he was in, would have called the police, or called the police and CPS, because this little boy was severely malnourished and had bruises all over his body. I don't understand that. So he would go back home, then to be punished even more because he tried to escape. And on his last minutes of his precious, precious little life, I from what this guy said, this man, that he tried to eat his feces again. And then he ate his feces, and he then went upstairs to jump on the bed, and he pulled a chair, part of the chair, the leg of the chair. He went in, and this little boy had the chair, this piece of chair in his bottom. And he told him to pull it out, and the little boy said no. So when he pulled it out, gushes of blood came out. And he said that was a normal behavior for the little boy, so he didn't think much of it. This had been going, he does this all the time, so he just figured he'd put him in some water and let him sit in the bathtub while his little bottom was swollen. I believe they said that his rectum was hanging out, and that there were signs that he was essayed. Malnourished, essayed, tortured. So this guy calls the ambulance after the little boy was non-responsive. And these two detectives, take Al into custody, and they're questioning him. I think they questioned him for like 5 or 6 hours. And this guy, the only thing he's saying is how tired he is. He hasn't slept in 3 days. No empathy for his son. No remorse about, his son. And when they said that his son had not made, that he didn't make it, all he said was, am I going to be charged? Am I going to be charged? I can't live in prison for the rest of my life. Not any remorse shown for your child that you say had a great life, and you didn't see anything wrong with keeping him in the attic with no clothes on, with just a blanket up there, with a bucket, no water, no food, no clothes. I hope that they give him the longest sentence that they could give this guy. I hope that he thinks every day and that he's tortured every day with what he's done to his son, what he's done to that precious little boy. When the autopsy came back, they said that the little boy had several broken ribs, some current, some that he had over the 2 years. They said that his rectum was swollen, very swollen. They had never seen anything like that. It was actually hanging out. And he was severely malnourished. He was unalived 2 days before his 11th birthday. And may this little angel rest in peace. As for Amanda and Jennifer, they were taken into custody as well. And of course, like everybody does when they're caught, they start turning on each other. And so that's where we get the story from Amanda that she never seen Takoda. She would come home and Takoda would be asleep. But yet and still, on another story, she says that she homeschooled Takoda, that she would put him in this room called the library, and she would sit him there with pencils and a book, and he was supposed to do his homework that way. This little boy also had numerous fractions on his head, on his brain. And so I believe when he jumped out of that window, he was jumping out of there so that he could save himself, so that he could get help from all of the torture that he was living every day. So I hope that they give him the longest sentence that a person can get. And I'm thinking, let me look here. Okay, yeah, he was indicted. So I'm not for sure. I want to actually keep following this case to see actually what kind of sentence he does get. And I hope that it is the most, I shouldn't say that because I don't want to judge anybody, but it just upsets me that our system is broken. Our system does not protect the children that they're supposed to go out to protect. They seem like they just don't have time to investigate situations. And then they leave the children in these homes. They go into the homes and these homes are filthy and it's just a mess. And they're telling the parents, you have such a certain amount of time to clean it up. Well, when the children are running around, they unexplained bruises and the house is a mess and, things are not right. And you go out to check on these children and you leave them in the home, or you go out and the parents say, oh, they're sleeping. He's not feeling well. And you don't say to them, I need to put eyes on that child. And I need to ask that child, what is going on? Are you, and don't do it in front of the people that are accused of doing these things to these children. Take them in the room. Question them away from where these where they're being abused. They're scared. They're not going to say anything in front of people that are abusing them. They're not going to say anything. So they're going to tell you everything's okay. There's another case that's, the in Albuquerque, and I want to put that and cover that case as well. But this happened years ago, where the police came and they, talked to the child. The mom says, "Oh, he's just being bad," you know, and that was the last time. 6 months later, he would be unalived, and he was just standing there at that door, and the look on his face. He stood and opened that screen door, and he was looking at the police officers while they walked away, probably screaming inside, help me, please get me out of here." So I think that, we all need to have our eyes open, and be aware that when you see children that are looking at you, or they're you see something wrong. I'm not saying just to pick out something and say, "Oh my gosh, there's a kid that, is he being abused or whatnot?" But we all got to be aware. If a child's telling you, "I don't want to go back, I don't want to go there," then don't just turn a blind eye. We've got children ourselves, and we need to protect the children. Children are going into foster care out of a home that they've been in, and they're going out into another torturous situation where these foster parents are doing the same thing that their parents did to them. So I I don't get where the empathy is left off from CPS. I don't get it. And I think that we need to do better. We need to do better for our children. We need to do better, and train our foster parents. Make sure that they're trained, and that that you cross every T and dot every I when you're placing these children in their homes. I understand that they go through an you know, um, extensive background, and they do some training and extra training if they have autistic children, but we need to follow up. We need to get those home studies done. Not home studies, because the home studies when I was in foster care was when they went out to check the home and to make sure that everything was safe, and they gave you a list of rules and whatnot. But we need to, as not we, but the social workers and the case workers and the case managers, or whatever they're called now, need to go out and do those visits every month. And if you have to, in between, do a visit before that month starts, then so be it. You do that. Do unannounced visits. Go out and make sure that those children are okay. You don't have to make an appointment. Just go, pop by. And the problem is that we're overloading, because there are so many cases, and I get it. I get it. There's a lot of cases out there, and they are so overwhelmed that they don't want to take this child out. They want to give the parent a chance. When a child is saying that they are being abused, then I think they need to have some type of system in place to where they take that child out of that home for 24 to 48 hours just to investigate it. Because the minute you leave, that child is going to be tortured, or even worse, as this little boy was. So those are the cases that I want to cover. the true crime about about foster children or children that are being abused. I They deserve it. They deserve to be heard. And sometimes, it's just it gets past us. And I think that there needs to be follow up when the police comes out to call. That there need to be follow up by CPS, and not 2 or 3 days later, not a week later. It needs to be immediate when those cases come through. I think that the laws need to be changed. There need to be rules put in place so that we can get to these children that are being abused and give them the love that they need, the normal childhood that they need, and also vet our foster care parents, because some of them are just in it for the money. They can care less about that child and giving them love. I was fortunate to have a awesome grandmother. That's what we called her. And I stayed there from the time that I was 12 until I was 18. And she was wonderful. She treated me as if I was her own. She got very little money back then, and she never waited on, oh, your check is just not enough. She would take out of her own pocket. I'd come home and there would be clothes on my bed because she says, here's an outfit. She was absolutely wonderful, and I was absolutely blessed to have her. So I say that to say this: let's be more aware, and let's bring some awareness to these cases that are being shared. So I'd appreciate it if you would even share this video, and I'd appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. And also, please hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you. It's not going to cost you anything to hit the subscribe button. So hit it and come back. And again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for all the comments. And I hope to see you soon. Bye.